Hello everyone, welcome to another solution video. In this video, we're going to be calculating a digit sum of a number and then increase the complexity by analyzing all the numbers from 1 to 1,000 and determine which number has the greatest digit sum. So, looking at an example, if we have 84,001, if we get the digit sum, it is 13. That is because if we separate that number into its individual digits of 8, 4, 0, 0, and 1 and add it all up, we would get 13. And later on in this video, what we're going to do is look at every number from 1 to 1,000 and determine which value has the greatest digit sum by using our first portion of the solution. So let's handle our input first. So we're going to grab a value of an integer input. Next, let's get into the processing and the output. For the first portion of this problem, we need a total sum. So let's create a variable called total, set it to 0. And we're going to grab each individual digit, add it onto that total sum. Now, from the previous units, we would have used some sort of a modulus operator and then separate digits, but we're going to do that a little easier with the help of a for loop. So we're going to go for the iterating variable called digit that's inside the string of our num. What I'm doing is I have an integer num and I'm converting that to a string because num is not a sequence. Integer is not a sequence, and we can only use a for loop with sequences such as strings or the result of a range function or even a list. So in this case, if I convert the num into a string, I can look at now the individual characters of that string and they will be our numeric digits. So I am grabbing the individual digits with our for loop, and I'm going to add that to our total variable. But I can't just add the digit directly because it is a string value. So I'm going to convert that digit on every iteration to integer. So now if I were to print that total and just show you a run at this stage of the program, we're going to get this. We're going to enter the integer of 84,001. That gives us 13. The for loop converts the 84,001 into a string. The variable digit represents each digit one by one as a string value. Then we convert it into an integer and then add it up into our total. Now the next portion of this problem states that from 1 to 1,000, we're going to determine which number has the greatest digit sum. So basically what I want to do is repeat this procedure over and over again as I run the program and analyze the numbers from 1 to 1,000. So we're going to go from 4. Let's say this iterating variable is going to be called num in range of 1 to 1,000, and because we want to include 1,000, so we're going to do 1,001. These code here that I've written before, I'm just going to indent them all once. So what it's going to do is we're going to do this 1,000 times. From 1 to 1,000, we're going to analyze each digit sum of all the numbers starting at 1 to 1,000. Perfect. Now I need to track which value, which number produces the greatest digit. So let's set up some more variables here so we can say that answer is 0 and the greatest digit is also 0. So what I'm going to do is every time I find a greater digit, I'm going to update this variable, and I'm going to also update the number that created that variable. So let's uncomment the total here. And we're going to say if, after the inner loop is done, if the total is greater than the greatest digit, we're going to update the answer value to the current num value. And then we're also going to update the greatest digit with our new total. For this program, we don't need any input, so I'm going to comment that program out, and I'm going to run it as it is. Let's give it an output, print. We can say answer, the variable answer, has created the largest, the greatest digit sum of greatest digit variable. Let's run the code. So it will say that 999 has created the greatest digit sum of 27, because 9 plus 9 is 9 gives us 27. So this is an example of a nested for loop where we have a for loop within a for loop. And if you notice, when I solved this problem, I started with the inner for first, trying to think about, well, how can I solve this with one instance? Looking at one instance of a number, how do I use a for loop? Or how do I even solve that problem? Because if I know how to do that for one solution, I can apply another loop that gives us a range of values or looks at all the values, and I can just run that code that many times repetitively. And this is why we use a for loop. We learn how to solve questions at a small instance, and we try to apply that repetitively until we get the final. Anyway, thank you for watching. Stay classy.